So I'm starting a series of stories about my clients' experiences to share with you because I have so many amazing stories from my clients, and they've all given me permission to do this. I am keeping them anonymous by changing their names, but um, I just want people to see like what's possible and what kinds of things can happen for people. So I'm actually going to start out with my own story. And I've been an energy and sound healer and clutter coach, space clearer since 2013. Um, but just like everybody else, I still have my own blocks. And one of the things that I noticed in the past couple of years, I've been having this vision that I'm supposed to be out in the world on a stage, speaking to people. I'm supposed to get my message out there. I'm supposed to get the services that I offer, the things that I offer to people out there in a bigger way. And yet, when I would get in front of a camera to try to speak, or even sometimes in conversations with people, I would have this kind of block in my throat, this kind of hesitancy holding back. My voice was very quiet, and I just couldn't seem to get the words out, or if I did, my sentence would fade away at the end. And I couldn't figure out what that was for a long time. And then one day, I suddenly realized that this wasn't mine, that this was ancestral. And so I had a session where I worked with someone and we worked together, another healer, and worked together to clear this. And it was so fascinating to me because um, we have so many things going on in our lives, and we don't realize that a lot of times our ancestors are actually causing those situations. So it can be something that, um, you know, epigenetic, that we've inherited some sort of trauma. I also see working with my clients that people inherit trauma or blocks or patterns energetically and not necessarily physically through their chromosomes, but energetically it gets passed down in the family tree. Sometimes ancestors on the other side are either helping us or hindering us. A lot of times it's to help us. They're like holding us back in some way to try to help us. And this is what I found for my situation. So as we started this session, um, we're like, okay, who is it? Who do we need permission from to clear this? And I immediately felt it was ancestral. And so I did some energy checking and I realized it was my paternal great grandfather. So it was my paternal grandmother's father. And I didn't know anything about him. I wasn't even sure of his name. I knew that a lot of my ancestors had come over from the Netherlands sometime in the 1800s, but I didn't know anything about him or when he had come over. I kept getting the name John, but John isn't a Dutch name, so I couldn't figure out what that was, but he seemed to kind of light up with the name John. And he wanted me to find out his name. So at the end of the session, I did go look at that, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But um, what happened during the session was that we got the message from him that he was keeping me small. He was suppressing my voice because he wanted to protect me and all of his descendants, that something traumatic had happened to him. And he wanted to be, he wanted us to be safe. And so he was kind of keeping us inside the box and keeping us small and not doing too much, not drawing attention to ourselves. And so, as part of the healing process, I had to talk to him and ask him if he would take on another job to protect me in another way, or serve me in another way. And that was to use his experience and his knowledge to pave the way and open the way for me. And that I had already done a lot of work on myself, and that I was protected by my angels and guides, and I had a lot of knowledge about what to do, and it was safe for me to get out in the world in a bigger way. And so he agreed to do that. And that's been about 3 weeks ago. And since then, I have really noticed a shift in my voice. I don't feel like I'm quite 100% where I want to be, but even just looking at video recordings of something I did like in the last couple days versus like a month ago, I can tell the difference in the quality of my voice, which is really incredible. And I did go back and do some research with him, and there were actually some other things that came up around his experiences that were affecting me as well. So I did some research and I found out what his name was, and that he was born in the Netherlands in 1861 and came over with his parents on a ship and when he was 3. And I had this really visceral image of him being on this boat. And, back in the 1860s, it was probably about a week at least, and maybe 10 days at sea. And his terror as a 3-year-old being on this ship and the motion of the waves and being trapped and not being able to get off or escape from that, and wondering if he was going to survive. And for the last probably, oh gosh, it's almost been 30 years now, I have had this fear of flying. And I fly across the ocean to Asia every couple of years because I have relatives over there. And it's just horrible for me because as soon as I get on the plane and there's any kind of minor turbulence at all, I'm just like, I'm just so terrified. And I get those same feelings of like, I'm trapped. I'm not in control. I have no control. I can't get off. What if something happens? What if I die? And I was like, I've done all these things like EFT tapping and different things, and just cannot get rid of it. And when I felt that from him, I thought a lot of that is his fear. And so I'm going to be working with him and clearing that trauma and that fear out from him. And that's going to make it much easier for me to finish clearing that fear out of me. So it's just really incredible to me to see what effects our ancestors have on us. And sometimes they will come through and they will be, helping us with things and supporting us from the other side too. But it's something that I love doing, and it's something I'm really called to do right now, is to work with people's ancestors. Going back in time to see what they are, or working with the angels and the guides to kind of lift that trauma out of the family tree, out of them, or even doing like emotional clearing and clearing the stuck emotions that they didn't process that have kind of passed down to us. So I'm loving doing that kind of work right now, and would love to work with more people if you're interested in doing some of that work with me.